Alright, so I want everyone to be aware of this little work. What it represents is a pretty phenomenal invention. Well, let's go over what exactly this publication is. So if you read on here, it says it's public domain, and basically this publishing house, they find different, basically public domain works, and they publish them under the Scholar Select. So what that means is you can probably, if you're really good with your searching and things like that, you can probably find the public domain PDF of this if you don't want to buy this book. I wanted a hard copy, and it turns out this isn't the best quality, but it's some heavy duty reading. Even though it's very small work, it's some heavy duty reading. So I don't know about you, but I get my eyes get tired looking at backlit video screens and things. So when it comes down to actual studying, I actually prefer paper. Well, it depends. Sometimes I have both formats. So anyway, I want to make this. I want you to be familiar with this work, because the gist of it is that Thomas Edison came up with a submarine battery that was nickel iron, and that's all well and good, but the important part, well, there's a couple of important parts, but the important part was the battery had a spigot at the bottom of it, and you could drain the potassium hydroxide and lithium monohydrate and distilled water electrolyte out of it. See if I can find a schematic of it real quick. And that way you could easily service it. Way easier than all the predecessor designs. And it's been a while since I looked at this. I don't know exactly what page to go to. In fact, I might just go through each page. You can, if you're really poor and you don't want to buy your own copy, you might be able to pause the screen. Let me go through it real quick, and then I'll see if I can find. Well, here's the spigot. Here's the base battery, but the spigot would be near the bottom somewhere. I can't find it. Oh crap, it's not really, what? So on the original PDF, I have it somewhere. I might just pull that out at some point. There's a picture of him, Thomas Edison, with one of these batteries. And on that picture, I believe you can clearly see the spigot. Or I might just be having a memory artifact or something that I'm not thinking about. So let's go through each page here for the folks that are really hard up. We'll just scan it right quick and see these. Speaking of artifacts, see these. That's making it really difficult to. That could be cleaned up. If this posting house is mostly get it out there and see what sells, and I think they're not into the clarification business. Maybe at some point they might, but it's just quick and dirty publications. So those are cells set up on a pivoting device to simulate rough seas. rough ocean. So what happened was Thomas Edison was getting kind of old at this point. I think this is in the 1930s or so, and he sent a representative to run this affair to try to get a contract with the Navy Department. Now, what happened, and there's more media online and stuff, some of it's still under the domain of some the various newspapers and stuff, so I can't really whip it out and show you on this because, you know, all the difficulty with the ownership of the what do you call it, the intellectual property and stuff like that for articles. So what was I saying? So long story short, there was an explosion, and then there was an investigation. Several Navy sailors died, submariners died, and it was a whole screw up. And the investigation and the history is very interesting. I'm sure it's covered in some work, or maybe it isn't. I think this was a guy, Miller Reese Hutchinson. I think he was an engineer, I think. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. But basically, he didn't have enough hydrogen detectors. And the thing with Edison nickel iron batteries is they, as a near a complete charge, the upper stage or the final stage, they start emitting more and more hydrogen, and the Navy investigation thought it might be well, basically it was sort of inconclusive and blurry, but I think that this was a botched job. They should have had better controls, and it could have been a spark, could have been static electricity, could have been an overcharged condition. It could have been maybe a cell got, maybe it overcharged and evaporated electrolyte, and the electrolyte dipped below the plates and it arced and sparked and blew the hydrogen, which could happen. I have some nickel cadmium cells where it almost looks like that happened. I bought them damaged. It was part of a big lot I bought. It looks like that, or lightning went through them or something. So anyway, long story short, they didn't get the contract. And I don't know where you would find any of these Edison nickel iron submarine batteries. The newspapers at the time uncovered that Edison had sold some sets to some foreign navies, foreign submarines. But I haven't found a lot of data on that. I haven't done a lot of digging. But apparently they were successful in some other situations. It's just a little blurry. And the way my mind works, I don't remember everything I learned. And as a result, I just basically have a skeletal understanding of things, and then I flush it out. Or we'll go like this. It's a little bit better. So I'm going over this real quick. But yeah, so some mariners died, and it was just bad overall, and it didn't work too good. And as far as I know, the U.S. Navy has used lead acid batteries ever since. I know from some personal experience that that's what was on the the submarines that I've been on. So anyway, so yeah, yeah, it's a pretty interesting. Yeah, here we go. Miller Reese Hutchinson, Chief Engineer and Personal Representative of Thomas Alva Edison. So I think Hutchinson got too excited and didn't take some precautions. Of course, they were prototype batteries, and maybe things didn't turn out just so. So anyway, I'll include a link, I think, to this book. You can buy it on Amazon. The price got pretty expensive. And then I think I bought a used copy, but you can also find a PDF somewhere. It was scanned by Google. At some point, so excuse me. So just be aware of it. But the main thing that came of this is the potassium hydroxide electrolyte. It turned out that one of the side benefits was it absorbs carbon monoxide. And so I think that a product called amine or amine, it's been a long time since I've had to deal with smelling that stuff, but it's used in oxygen scrubbers, and it's potassium hydroxide base, and so it helps purify the oxygen aboard submarines. And so that was a side benefit of these. The idea was the electrolyte would gradually go stale, which it does in all Edison nickel iron batteries, and then you replace it. But as it's going stale, it's absorbing the carbon monoxide, and then you're helping the oxygen purity. And then the idea, it's not illustrated properly on here, unfortunately. There's a missing photo. It was on the cover of the original scan, and you could see they've omitted that on this, but you could see the battery, and it had a spigot on the bottom, and so you could when the electrolyte became stale, you could just drain it out and then add more in the top. And they had a special so that's the way to handle the cells, by lifting it. But anyway, they had a special entry point. It's supposed to be explosion proof. So at any rate, yeah, I think this is a detail of it. Safety water seal, it's basically kind of like a toilet. How the water seal in the toilet keeps the sewer gases from coming up. Vaguely, I guess, without looking at it strongly, that's what I would think. So yeah, well, these were high ampere hour cells, and enough to run a submarine. And the fact that you could service them was an added plus, because I have some huge Edison batteries, not as huge as these, and they're a real bear to contemplate replacing the electrolyte with new, because you gotta drain it out. The top filler axis, there's no spigot on the bottom, and so this was a real innovation. But because of the bad prototype explosion and people dying and things like that, it just wasn't implemented properly, and I think then of course World War II happened, and Thomas Edison passed away, and a bunch of things happened, and so I think this is a good pursuit for modern day researchers and innovators and engineers and inventors and tinkerers and things like that. But have a nickel iron battery with a spigot on the bottom that allows you to drain it without muss or fuss. And then just before I leave here, I came across some literature and evidence, and I don't have it with me right here, but apparently the Edison nickel iron battery establishment, they would buy the used electrolyte, and then they'd have a way of recycling it or reprocessing it to reclaim the components and clean it up and probably sell it again. So that's another processes and a whole other bag of worms. But just want to put this little video out. I'm going to really start working on my YouTube output. Beginning to understand that unless I can make it on YouTube, which is a real bugbear, but I need to actually give it a shot. But if I don't make it on YouTube, it looks like I'm going to be stuck in a situation where I don't have enough research funds, and without enough funds for research, and yeah, I'm beginning to learn you have to do investment and things like that. I'm kind of copying Elon Musk now, where he built his financial empire before he built his technology and innovation, later acquisitions and things like that. But he built his finances first. Unlike Nikola Tesla, who was utterly dependent on financiers and well-wishers and things like that, and didn't have a strong financial base, and he eventually ran out of gas. So that was sad. You got to have a strong financial base if you're going to do intense research, and that's something Thomas Edison took care of. He made sure that he kept building and fortifying his financial base, and he kept going from there. So that's something to take away. With that, respectfully, without without heavy criticism. I mean, we have the hindsight's 2020. So take the best aspects of different situations. And as for me, I'm a fan of everybody. Teach me something I need to know. So just as long as you're not harmful to the species, I'm sure you have something that is worth learning. Okay, so I'm going to cut this video down before it gets too darn long, and I'll include a link, an Amazon affiliate link, of course, obviously, because so anyway, yeah, thanks so much.